All right, welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Bernd. Evan, how we doing, man?
Good as can be.
Yes, sir, man. You know, we got a packed show for you guys today. The Milwaukee Bucks played 2 games this week, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A blowout loss, unfortunate loss
To the
Atlanta Hawks, but
a good bounce back.
But a nice little bounce back. A nice little 122 to 114 victory over the Miami Heat.
Yes, wish could have been a little better. But a win's a win.
Yeah, so we'll actually just get right into it right now. We got to talk about the game against the Atlanta Hawks.
Yes.
Because
disgusting game.
It was gross. Okay, and it was gross right as the game started because the team just came out flat, like flat. Like you knew right away that that it wasn't going to be their night. That they just didn't have it. The energy wasn't very high.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have nights like that. You know, and look, Atlanta throughout the past few years has played Milwaukee extremely tough.
Yes,
they're a tough team to play against. Okay, and you add in the addition of Quinn Snyder, who I don't think people give enough credit for how good his defenses were when he was in Utah. Okay, he was doing something right on Sunday night because he held Damian Lillard to 6 points.
Yeah, he didn't score until the third quarter. And that was the lowest in his career so far.
And look, I don't want to blame. I'm not going to sit here and blame Dame for all of that. Okay, I think Atlanta had a great defensive game plan against them, where they were basically like, "You're not going to beat us." They were sending multiple double teams on him. They were blitzing him on the pick and rolls. Okay, like I think they were just resigned to be like, "Okay, we're going to let Giannis get his, but nobody else on this team is beating us."
Yeah, it was one of the games where, and I hate it because, you wait so long to watch the game, and then in the first 2 minutes, they've already lost. But it was one of the games where every single shot, it seemed like they were making. I was going over the box score and just kind of noticing the starters, 6 for 10, 6 for 10, 5 for 10, 5 for 14, 6 for 12. And then you have Okongwu on the bench, 7 for 11. Bogdanovich, 6 for 10, 4 3-pointers. It's like everything they did just went in. So many guys were in double digits. Everyone seemed to be in the same rhythm together. And it was one of those games where it is what it is. They kind of came back a little bit, but once they got to like 13 or 14 points, it was like right back to 23 right after you blink. But they were consistent with keeping a lead, which is something the Bucks can't do, which we'll get into the Heat game. But it was a frustrating game, but it is what it is at the end of the day. But good coaching, and when the team's scoring 30 plus every quarter except the fourth, yeah, it's going to be like that.
And look, I think that was in the NBA coaching circles. I think that was Adrian Griffin's welcome to the NBA moment.
Yes, it was defensively not a good game. So many wide open dunks that guys were just kind of left open right in the restricted area. So Clint Capella got quite a few dunks, and I think Kongu got a few dunks as well, but it just seemed like triple teaming, and then the one guy left open is the guy right under the hoop, and they did that countless amounts of times. So, yeah, I agree. A lot of free throws, a lot of wide open shots, just overall not a good game.
Yeah, and like that needed to be addressed because like it felt like, okay, is anybody going to guard Okongwu? Is anybody going to guard Capella? Because it felt like they were running the same exact play over and over again. But Milwaukee kept bringing double teams on like pick and roll situations, and Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, Bogdanovich, whoever it was, okay, just boop, throw right in the middle, easy dunk, okay, and it felt like Milwaukee just like it was like the first time they had seen that play, where they just easy dunk. So I don't know if Atlanta necessarily did anything elite offensively in terms of what the play calls were. It was just more or less like Milwaukee just was really, really bad on their rotations.
Yeah, it was like the Hawks were finding the Bucks weak spots, I guess, in their defense at points, and it worked because they did it countless amounts of times, whether that was going to the restricted zone or finding an open three. A lot of guys like Bogdanovich, Trae Young. Trae Young had like 2 extremely deep threes in the fourth quarter that kind of like solidified it, but a lot of guys were getting wide open shots. Again, not every time they made it, but to have continuous wide open threes is kind of frustrating. But I think one of the big things that stood out to me early was Capella. Again, he's a rebound machine, but he had like 5 or 6 rebounds, like a little over halfway through the first quarter. So it's like he was continuously just like right there, ready for any shots, offensive rebounds, and defensive rebounds as well. Like no one could guard him that night.
No, and I think this also need to be addressed. Kind of as I looked at the stat sheet, 8 Atlanta Hawks scored in double figures.
Yes.
Including all 5 starters.
All 5 starters, and then there are 3 guys on the bench who you would kind of assume would also. And Bogdanovich was the second highest leading scorer off the bench in 26 minutes with 17. He's one of those guys where I wish they would have traded 4 years ago. I will take Bogdanovich over Grayson Allen 10 out of 10 times.
And the thing is, it feels like every time Bogdanovich goes up against Milwaukee, it feels like he's always in revenge mode.
Yeah.
It's
Even
like,
though
see,
he's
this is
never
what you
played
can
on the
have.
Bucks. Yeah.
But, all revisionist history where it's like Milwaukee did try to trade for him.
That was like Dante, right?
That wasn't Dante. And I don't think he necessarily wanted to go to Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember this correctly, I think Giannis and him were talking, and I don't really think he wanted to go to Milwaukee. And so, but Milwaukee like announced the deal too early.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like Milwaukee got a tampering charge because of this.
Yeah, they took away the pick.
Yeah, because they were in negotiations too early, and they unfortunately took away like I think it was like a second round pick if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, was that the year where like there was 2 less picks in the draft, or is that for something else?
Might have been. It could have been. Or it might have also like that's happened for the past couple of years though, where teams are getting caught tampering for that. I don't know. I honestly, and that was during the COVID year too.
Mm-hmm.
So the free agency period was like in the middle of November or something. So like if true diehard NBA fans, every year now it's going to be the free agency period is going to be in July. But if there's like a little kid right now, and he looks back at all these trades and he goes, "Why was a trade made in November?" I'm like, it was COVID. I mean, we had to shorten the season, and then that free agency was like
in the off season.
That was the off season. The draft took place in November too, and then the season didn't start till like Martin Luther King Day. So it was. It was a long wait for all of that stuff. But yeah, going back to Bogdanovich, I wish Milwaukee would have had him, but I think at the same time, it's one of those things where everything worked out for the better because without Bogdanovich, they don't get Drew Holiday.
Yes.
I believe that's how it was. I think Drew Holiday might have been after that trade. And, Dante eventually, not, if I remember correctly,
he went to the Kings.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember if he went to the Kings,
then the Warriors.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's okay. So I was trying to think about the timeline for a second. So DiVincenzo would play a year with the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
He would start with the team during their finals run.
Yes.
Well, quote unquote, because he got hurt in the first round, and then the season after, in like February,
they traded him.
They traded him to the Kings, and Sacramento didn't want him. And that was also the year where, when he got hurt, he didn't come back until like December. So, and he didn't play particularly well, but again, he was coming off an injury, so I'm going to cut him a little slack for that. But now he's playing with his college teammates.
Yep, on the Knicks.
Yep.
A little $50 million a year deal, but yeah. Big thing with that was, again, with Bogdanovich shooting, he he was one of those guys who just came in and did what he needed to do. He knew what he was doing. It's always he's got like the good like dagger type shot where every shot I feel like he makes is always like a stab and then they like twist it because every shot he takes is where it's needed to go in. Obviously that's for every shot, but it's always in crunch time where like Bucks make a little run, 3-pointer, cool. That was for nothing, but yeah, he was, I think, in my opinion, a good player of the game type just because of his shooting. 4 for 7 from 3, 6 for 10 overall on the free throw. But yeah, it's just, again, one of those games where the Bucks couldn't really find their shot. Again, every single player but Chris Livingston played. We got some Andre Jackson Jr. Time. Hasn't scored yet, but he played 7 minutes, looked good defensively. Had a couple stats, had 4 rebounds, assists and a steal. But yeah, I didn't really find anything good on the Bucks side besides Malik Beasley. I think he had a pretty good game.
Yeah, he dropped in at 18 points, able to score a little bit off the bench. And again, I think for Malik Beasley's sake, I actually wrote this yesterday. I don't know if he's necessarily like a lock to be in the lineup for the whole year.
No, I don't think so either.
That feels tenuous because he's gonna get a lot of wide open looks, but can he knock him down at a consistent rate, or can he defend at a high level? Because there was talk before the year where it's like who's gonna be the 5th starter? Is it gonna be Beauchamp? Is it gonna be Beasley? I don't. For some reason, I get the sense that Beauchamp could eventually find his way into the starting lineup.
Yeah, I do too. And I think we mentioned that earlier where he'll start, but will eventually change. But it's kind of annoying when you see a guy get so many wide open 3-pointers and he misses quite a few of them. He kind of makes some more contested ones, but misses the ones where it's like, okay, that definitely should have gone in. Like he was 4 for 10. Obviously, that's 40% if you do the math, which is, again, a good shooting percentage, but missing 6 and a couple of them were wide open is always a little frustrating.
Yeah, and like the other issue is that nobody really has played well enough to usurp Beasley's role as the 5th starter.
Yes.
Connaughton still hasn't played well. He still hasn't shot the ball particularly well. And Beauchamp is very much hit or miss. Like he could drop in 8 or he could drop in 4. I know he missed the game against Atlanta, I believe. I don't know if it's been the past 2 games.
No, he missed the Hawks one. That was it. He played at Atlanta, missed the Hawks game. Oh, sorry, played at Atlanta, missed the Heat game.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was.
Sick. Yeah, he was 2 for 2 on threes in the Hawks game.
Yeah, so again, Beauchamp, again, it's very early in the season, so we got to see how much he develops. Because the only thing we really know about him right now is he packed down like 15 pounds of muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So and he does look strong. I will say that. So look, I think that'll only help him because he is a long wing defender and he could play a Malik Beasley role for the Bucks, where he could guard the other opposing team's best wing player. I think he's a really good defender. I think he brings a lot of effort, especially off the bench. But we'll see what happens. I think it's just going to be between those two, though. I don't think Pat Connaughton's going to find his way into the starting lineup.
No, and I hope not. If he continues, unless he gets better. But as of right now, I don't want to see him in the starting lineup because usually he's the guy that they would put in the starting lineup if Chris was out. But now I think that's Jay Crowder's role, who, again, also isn't shooting the best. But I would say it's going to be Beasley or Beauchamp. I can see Marjan getting it later on, unless, again, he kind of just picks it up out of nowhere. But he just needs a little more minutes. He's getting like 13 to 17 minutes roughly, depending on the game. But I'm hoping he can get up to like the 20, 23 as like a solidified 6th, 7th man. But as of right now, I think it'll be Malik Beasley, but give it a little bit. And I think Marjan's in there.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And I think the other area that needed to be addressed is that Milwaukee turned the ball over 23 times.
Yes.
You're not winning a game in the NBA when you turn the ball over 23 times. You're not. Okay, Milwaukee lost 127 to 110, and that was that was a majority of the reason why is because they just could not take care of the basketball.
Yeah, and Damian Lillard had 6 of those turnovers, and They scored, I think, almost on every single turnover. So if you kind of put that into math, that's at least 10 points off of turnovers. Again, depending on free throws, 3-pointers, or 2-pointers. I'm not going to do the math and figure that out, but 10 to 13 points roughly right there. Obviously, you're going to have turnovers, but having the same amount of turnovers as points usually isn't a good look, especially coming off a 39-point game. Again, we don't expect that every game, but it's just was hard to see you go 0 for every single shot you took. But yeah, turnovers is horrible. Everyone had at least one except AJ Green and Brooke Lopez. But again, that was a big reason why. Frustrating, extremely frustrating.
But honestly, kind of thinking about it now, that performance from Milwaukee is kind of be expected because when you think about it, they're coming off an emotional win against the 76ers where, oh my God, so back and forth. It's like, it's high energy. It's like offense galore. And then you get to Sunday, it's like, I don't know if we could replicate that performance. I'm not saying the players are saying that, but that's what their play, like their play speaks volumes. Like it just felt like we got to play Sunday. Jesus, sometimes it's, and again, sometimes it's hard to just want to. It's kind of like it's very much like a job where there's days where it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get all this done. You're like, I want to be here. I'm gonna work hard, and then some days it's like, God, this sucks. Jesus, I'm just here for pay. Whatever they ask me to do, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna give like 110% effort. That's what it feels like sometimes. It's hard to give effort 100% of the time of like really anything you do.
Yeah, it was one of those games where the fans weren't really in it the whole time just because of how poorly they were playing. So when you feed off energy, especially in Milwaukee, energy is huge in the arena itself. It's one of those things where no one's into the game, no one's having fun, they're losing, no one's really playing well except Giannis and Malik Beasley. But it was just one of those games where it was frustrating. No one really wanted to continue to watch. The second half was way better than the first half, but still lost by 17.
Yeah, so this is the kind of a game, the first game of it's probably gonna be not. There's gonna be games where Milwaukee has a performance under Adrian Griffin that they'd like to forget.
Yes, and this is one of them.
This is probably gonna be one of those games.
Rip the
But again,
Band-Aid off.
this is gonna happen in Adrian Griffin's coaching tenure. But that's the beauty of the NBA is you really don't know who it could be against. It could be against literally any team in the NBA. Like, if you think back to last year, Milwaukee had one of the worst performances of the season against the Charlotte Hornets.
Yes.
Like they were getting blown, like they got blown out.
And everyone was flying too. That was another one. Them and the Rockets.
Oh. 2
bad games.
Yeah, the Hornets one was like the Rockets one was just like ugly and like low scoring. It feels it if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, the Hornets one.
Just got blown out.
That one was bad. That one, yeah, they got blown out by like 20, 30 points.
Oh yeah. So, again, this is probably going to be a performance that Adrian Griffin would like to forget as head coach of the Bucks. But he quickly got his team to rebound.
That they did.
Milwaukee got their revenge on the Miami Heat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're unfamiliar, the Heat eliminated the Bucks in the first round in 5 games last year. They got their revenge. 122 to 114 the next night, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for this game, what really set the tone, Giannis on Jimmy Butler the first possession.
Yeah. Giannis, I think, guarded him the entire game. Jimmy Butler overall, he didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. Was 4 for 11 shooting. Only had 13 points. Not really a game for him that you would expect, especially from Bucks fans of what we saw in the first round last year. But kind of seeing Giannis get put right on Jimmy Butler and do really well kind of raises an eyebrow about the playoffs last year. Obviously, Giannis is a little hurt in the playoffs, but it was cool to see him being able to, I guess, lock him down a little bit for any future endeavors of them potentially playing in the playoffs. But it was cool to see Giannis have a good bounce back game. Obviously, he had 26 in the game before, but overall, really good game. Was making his free throws. Had a 3-pointer, even though he bricked the hell out of the 2 other ones that he shot because he gets a little cocky. But I want to think the biggest game outside of Giannis, I'm always going to say Giannis unless he just doesn't have a bad game. I think Bobby Portis had a really good game too. Shooting wise, again, the 3-pointer, he usually can hit, but 7 for 10 coming off the bench with his 8 rebounds, I think is always helpful to have when some of the rotations come out, and having a dominant performance by him continuously, I think, is underrated.
And I think during the course of that, because he was asked about it after the game, and I think he took the smallest little dig on Mike Budenholzer, because what he said was, I'm just going to coach Griffin gave me opportunity. I've been wanting him for like 3 years. I think that's a subtle dig that's a little subtle dig at Mike Budenholzer, because, if Giannis is saying it like that, then it's like, yeah, like I've basically wanted to do it this whole time, and now I finally have a coach who will give me the opportunity to guard the opposing team's best player.
And he did it well.
Yeah, 13 points. Like, Bro only scored 13 points, 4 of 11 shooting.
Yeah, 4 of them were were free throws. So it's outside of the free throws, he held them under 10 points.
Yep. But you couldn't stop everybody on the roster, okay? Because Tyler Hero dropped a nice little
35
points.
He had a really good mid-range, I think, that game. His 3-pointers, he didn't shoot a lot, only made 2 of the 5. But his mid-range and like close game was really well. He was cooking in the fourth quarter, like end of the third into the fourth quarter. Obviously, since the Heat scored 41 in the fourth and still ended up losing. But it was a Tyler Hero game, no matter what the outcome was. Played 42 minutes, scored 35 points.
And I don't know. Tyler Hero is one of those players that I kind of like to hate, just because of, when he was in high school, he committed to Wisconsin, but then he decommitted and ended up going to Kentucky. So ever since then, I'm like,
it makes sense though, like why he went to Kentucky, but yeah.
It does. I mean, he actually ended up better for it, because if he went to Wisconsin, he would have been a 3-year starter and probably not sniffed the NBA. Probably would have played overseas for like Greece or somebody. So honestly, in the end, I guess it was a decision that was best for him. But look, he is a very, very good player. He's a good shooter. And, there was a lot of similarities, because, he's going up against a guy, Damian Lillard, who his next team was in the balance, and Tyler Hero's next team was in the balance. Because Damian Lillard really wanted to go to Miami, like badly. Like that was his number one spot. And Tyler Hero was at the forefront of all those trade discussions. So, and Lillard was asked about it, was actually asked about it, like, is it going to be awkward playing against the Heat? And he said, I mean, not like, I never really played for that organization.
Yeah, he never played from. It was just the rumor wanted to, but yeah, it was a good response, I think, overall.
Yeah, I mean, I thought me personally, I wouldn't have asked that question, because it's one of those things where it's over and done with.
Yeah, they try to get something out of you.
Yeah, I don't know what. And again, like, I think Damian Lillard, the first time going through it, I think he's handled this as well as he could. Okay, it's not like he's not like Kevin Durant, where he's like, oh, this team's not compete for a championship, like, I'm gonna bounce. Or he's not Kyrie. Like, he wanted to stay in Portland, but he knew that, well, they're probably not gonna like win anything.
And he kept his loyalty for too long, where he's like, okay, you're not doing anything for me anymore. He gave it his all, and I think it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I saw the question. It was a good response. It's kind of like asking Giannis, like, oh, like, would you consider playing for the Bulls? They want to get that response out of you because it's publicity. But I think overall it was a good response. But it was a good bounce back game. He never played for the Heat in general, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing I was pleasantly surprised to see, okay, AJ Green got minutes, not in the context of a blowout. So, do you think that is something we're going to see more going forward?
I hope so. He didn't shoot well at all, and it kind of made me mad because I'm a AJ Green stan. 0 for 4. He really only had 2 assists, kept fouling, but give him time to get comfortable under AJ Griffin. I think again, he's got the potential. A lot of people that I've talked to before also think he has potential as well. He just needs consistency. But his shots are so close to that go like in and out, where it's not like he's like blatantly missing. Like his shots are close. They just sometimes don't want to fall. They either all fall or they all don't fall. But hey, he played 15 minutes. That was more than Campaign did, who actually shot really well too. As much as Chris Middleton, obviously with his restrictions. But hey, it's a good seeing, I guess. I feel like it's going to depend on the team that they're playing that he's going to play the most minutes with. But I'm hoping it continues.
Yeah, and he is the ultimate like catch and shoot guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he gets even a sliver of space, he's shooting it. And I like to see that. I don't like to see guys like catch and shoot guys try to be more than what they are. And I think AJ Green's like, shoot, I'm open. It's going up. Like it doesn't matter if I like that's his whole role is I'm gonna stay in the corner. Like it's going up. It doesn't matter where or when, what the shot clock is. Like
I'm shooting it
up. I'm shooting it. Not like J.R. Smith level, but he's like that's my role. I'm a catch and shoot. I'm a catch and shoot guy. And there are more players, or there's a lot of like Bucks media people who would like to see more AJ Green over Pat Connaughton.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of my tweets garnered some reaction where I said, at this point, I would rather play AJ Green over Pat Connaughton because I just think AJ Green's he's like the regression of Pat Connaughton kind of continues, whereas AJ Green he's just he's shooting the ball a little better, or he's it's one of those things where you just got to give him more of a shot than he's received so far in the NBA.
Yeah, and Pat Connaughton, he had, I think, his best game so far. Again, 3 for 5, 2 for 3 from threes over AJ Green's 0 for 3. But in the long run, I think Pat is not going to be able to be consistent enough like he has been in the past, especially in the 2020-2021 final season. But I don't know. Again, I'm still hesitant on Pat, but I think AJ Green has the chance to get more minutes in general with AJ Griffin, especially since he gave him 15 minutes right there. Again, not in, I mean, most of it wasn't really crunch time or like a blowout because they blew that lead so quickly in the end of the third going to the fourth. But I think it's a good sign, especially seeing him get minutes and Marjan as well kind of get the same amount of minutes. I'm hoping Andre Jackson Jr. gets like AJ Green minutes from last year, like 7 or 8 minutes. I see something in them, and I just wish they would get the chance to see the court more.
Yeah, I get it. It can be kind of hard though because NBA coaches have their rotations.
Yeah, it sucks that we're competing for a championship. Like it's not like they're playing for the Spurs where they're going to get the minutes that they can or all the minutes that they want. But it sucks to see guys that have potential but don't really get to see it as much because you're playing with the team who's favored to win.
And I think in due time, like maybe Andre Jackson Jr., Livingston, AJ Green, in due time they might see more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be extremely difficult this year with all the talent Milwaukee has.
Yes,
currently on the roster.
Yeah, he'll kind of be the Marjan of last year. When you have someone like Damian Lillard now on the team campaign, you bring in these other guys where that could have potentially been your role, but you're going to want the more experienced guys over the inexperienced to start out, but only time will tell. But yeah, that was a good bounce back game. Again, they got it really close. Bucks are up 25 at one point, and they only won by 8. Outscored by 16 points in the fourth quarter. Basically because of Tyler Hero going off, but hey, again, a win's a win. It was good to see them kind of beat the Heat in home. First game of the season for them, or first matchup, I should say, because they don't play again for another month. But yeah, it was good to see. I'm glad they won. I'm glad they could kind of close it out. Better shooting from Lillard. Campaign had a sneaky little 11-point game, 3-3-pointers, but I think overall they played a lot better than they did in the Hawks game.
And it wouldn't be a Bucks game without blowing like a 20.
Oh, of course not.
No. Some things never change, Evan. Some things never change.
Games.
Oh, they're up 20. Like the thing is with Milwaukee is that they'll be up like 25 or 27 and only win the game by like 10 or 12.
Where it's like the Hawks did it consistently. The Hawks had a consistent like 17 to 23-point lead that entire game. And they won by 17. The Bucks were up 25 and then you blink and they're up 12. And then it's like 6 and it's like, okay, cool. Like, like let's get it back up. But again, we'll take any wins that we can, but I hope they can figure out the closing games more because they've had 3 games this season and they've had 2 20-point leads, and 2 of them, their 2 wins, they've been up 20 plus and they've won by 1 point and 8 points. So it's something to kind of hope for down the road because I can't keep doing this.
It's nerve-wracking. It's like watching Devin Williams in the 9th inning.
Literally.
No, and the thing with that too is like, you know, it's such a tough decision as a coach because it's like, okay, when do we take our star players out? They have a good sized lead, but you just don't want like a Derrick Rose situation where they're up by a lot and like an injury is suffered by either Lillard or Giannis or Middleton or throwing Lopez. And then the people are going to be questioning, well, why are they still in? The Bucks had that game well in hand. Well, because you just don't want to throw in you just don't want to throw in your we call them other guys. You want to throw in your other guys too early, like the Robin Lopez's, the Thanasis, because I guarantee you throw those players in,
the lead is gone. They've done that before. They put in there. That was like the Raptors game last year.
The Raptors game. I hope that doesn't happen again.
They put Thanasis with like 5 minutes left, and we're going to overtime. Budenholzer, silly little guy.
That was tough. We were up like it was like 90 to 72, and then somehow we had to go to overtime.
Yep. Hey, still won though. Win's a win. A win's a win.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What else on my notes? Let's see. Go to Jimmy. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, okay, yeah, Bobby Portis, as you mentioned, had a nice little 16-point outing, but he was really doing it on both ends of the floor, running the fast break, playing great defense.
He doesn't usually get blocks, but he had a block this game and had more contested shots. I would say not necessarily blocks, but contesting is a little trickier for Bobby, I feel like sometimes, just because he's a power forward, but he's not like a Giannis power forward. 2 different kind of builds, but it's kind of nice to see him contest more. The only thing I will say about Bobby that kind of irks me is the fouling that he does. It's like dumb fouling where he's guarding and he like gets too much body, like he like nudges the guys and he gets them so quick. Same with Marjan, like they both do that, but it's if you're gonna foul him, contest the shot, don't foul him trying to steal it or trying to guard up on the 3-point line. That's my only critique I think I have on Bobby. Otherwise, again, he's doing what he needs to do. And he's doing a lot better.
Yeah, and there were potential talks about like, hey, should we trade Bobby Portis? And I think the real Bucks fans are like we don't want to trade Bobby Portis, but it's one of those things now where it's like, what's he going to look like in the postseason? Like, is he gonna be playable? Because there's been times where Portis has put together a great regular season, but it's like, oh god, this guy does not play well in the postseason.
And it sucks because he is the reason why they get to the postseason sometimes. Obviously, you have guys like Giannis, Chris, and Drew Holiday in the past, but if you don't have Bobby Portis on your team, some of those games you don't win. So to see him get us into the playoffs, but then not do anything in the playoffs is frustrating because you don't want to get rid of him because everyone loves him and he's like the heart and soul, like the hype part of their team. But on the other end, you need to make a playoff push and you need everyone to contribute.
Yeah, and if Robin Lopez isn't going to play for bulk of the season,
Mm-hmm.
then they at least were very thin at who's going to be the backup center.
Mm-hmm. And you can't put Giannis or Bobby at center because they're not centers. Just because they're taller does not mean they're good at playing center, as what we've seen in the past. But it's one of those things where it's some of the rotations they have where who's on the floor. Technically, Bobby would be considered the center at times with some of the rotations where there's none of the starters are on the court at the same time. But if Robin Lopez, I feel like, isn't going to play, why is he on the team? And I don't know. It's just like I feel like a waste of a center roster spot because looking at the roster, Brooke and Robin are the only centers, and one doesn't play.
Well, there is someone that I was actually about to throw out there. Dwight Howard's a free agent.
He is.
It's been in the news recently.
I feel like I don't know. Like I wish they could just have someone that you can rely on, and not Robin Lopez. I love Robin Lopez. I liked him the first time he was on the Bucks, but if you're not going to play, why have him?
Was he trying to bring the vibes back? I don't know what he was trying to do. Maybe I've said this before. Maybe John Horst was like, we need to have like another vibes guy on the team, and that's why I brought back Robin Lopez because like really, there's no reason. Because if Wesley Matthews wasn't going to come back, there's really no reason to bring Robin Lopez back. Because if you're not going to have that entertainment value pregame, then because look, Robin Lopez at this point, he is who he is. Okay, he can provide a little offense. Like he can do those like weird hook shots.
Yeah, where he's like,
yeah, like the water Kareem sky hook.
Yes,
he can do that. And I don't know. Does he still hit threes at a good rate?
Not really. He's airballing like layups and putbacks.
Like, and I think Adrian Griffin saw the tea leaves before the season started where, you know, I didn't watch many Bucks preseason games personally, but from the tweets I read, it was basically like, dude, like they can't play Robin. They cannot possibly play Robin Lopez.
Yeah,
like
that's
regular
what I saw with him and Thanasis.
Like I don't know what they saw, but I'm assuming he didn't make a lot of his shots and he didn't defend very well.
No, it was a lot of just missing like point blank shots.
Yeah, and look, if like I said, it's hard to find a good backup center, but they have one on the roster. They're not using them. So I don't know what exactly the plan is. If they're just trusting Brook Lopez for his bye to hold, because he did have a back surgery a couple years ago.
Yep.
So that's kind of a reckless plan to be like, well, let's trust this 35-year-old Brook Lopez for his bye to hold up for an entire 82 game schedule. That's a reckless plan. Or hey, something happens to Brook Lopez, we'll throw Bobby Portis in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not surprising that Milwaukee does that because they love them some undersized centers. Okay, if you think back through history, they had Drew Gooden at one point playing center. Yep. They had John Henson. They love Thon Maker at one point. They just love undersized centers who just get bullied by bigger centers.
By actual centers.
Exactly. So, Again, and if Brook Lopez's body holds up throughout the entirety of the season, that's great. But, I do think they need to solidify who the backup center is going to be.
Yeah, especially for the future. If you can get someone who can develop, and then when Brook's contract's up, again, whether or not he re-signs or not, I would assume probably not. It'd be nice to have a guy who could come off the bench and be ready to go to start from the experience that he's had under Brook Lopez. So I'm hoping they can do something. Do I think they will? Probably not. But at some point they're going to have to, or draft another center, second even if he's a second rounder, late first rounder, something to develop. But yeah, Robin Lopez is not the answer.
No, God no. And right now I'm looking at the roster for the like the Wisconsin Herd. I don't even know if they have anybody out there right now. Can't pronounce his name. No, I mean, well, they got Drew Timmy, but he's not really a center.
Yeah, no, they released him just to be a Herd guy.
They got this guy. They got this guy. He's from Spain. I'm not gonna pronounce his name because I'm gonna butcher the hell out of it. But he's like 7 foot, 241 pounds. So, you know, it's kind of like the backup point guard position heading into the year. Well, now they got to figure out backup center.
Yeah, who their center is going to be.
Yeah. So, Evan, you got anything else?
No, Bucks play again tonight. And then also on Friday. So we got 2 games coming in. They play Toronto, and then I believe they are back Friday against the Knicks.
Ooh. Nice little ESPN matinee.
Oh, yeah? I love a good earlier afternoon game. But yeah, Bucks play tonight at 6. Toronto's 1-3 right now. Obviously, the Bucks are 2-1. But we'll see. Matchup wise, I think they'll, again, Van Vliet is out of Toronto. I'm going to assume a win. I hope so, but you never know. Adrian Griffin again is returning back to Toronto. Already beat his old head coach Nick Nurse against Philly. Now let's see if he can do it again. But yeah, I expect a win tonight.
Yeah, and like Toronto, they've been trying to rebuild, I think, for the past couple of years, or
since they won, really
be in the process of trying to rebuild, because the biggest trade chip they have right now is OG Anunoby.
Mm-hmm.
Like he could be the first player dealt from that core.
Yeah, he's been rumored for the last good.
And Toronto having the same GM and a new head coach, they might be trying to, jumpstart the rebuild this season. So, we'll see what happens with that. You do expect a win for Milwaukee, who plays at Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said before, game against the Knicks on Friday on ESPN. So watch out for those 2 games. I mean, Evan will provide the recaps for those 2 games after they are finished. So until then, thank you guys for tuning in to the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. And we'll see you guys whenever.
Yeah, end of the week.